We've got you back and your mic is working, so now we can hear your answer. So go ahead and answer your take on, the political influence this might have. Did we lose him again?
Well, yeah, this has been devastating to Americans with college debt, an attack really to validate homophobia. But politically, this is a gift to Democrats, because for years we've been talking about the Supreme Court, but really now it takes it home. And it says to Americans that might have been on the fence, might not have been involved politically, to now come out in droves and say enough is enough. We have to change this conservatism, this extreme conservatism that we've seen from the bench, from the Supreme Court. So I think it really will activate Democrats. This is going to be a long time coming to overturn some of these challenges to the some of these challenges that have come from the Supreme Court. Right. But the only way we can do it is by changing Congress. And I think Americans are going to step out and vote in big numbers this year.
I'm going to switch gears now to Americans pulling back from values that formed our national character. There's a new Wall Street Journal poll which finds that only 38% of Americans said patriotism is very important to them. That's down from a high of 70% when the question was first asked back in 1998. As for religion, only 39% call it important compared to 62% about 25 years ago. And when it comes to having children, only 30% say it's very important. That is down 29% from 1998. David, I'll start with you. First of all, morals and values are under attack in this country. That is unquestionable. I don't care whether you're a Republican or Democrat. You must agree when we're talking about banning books, in certain libraries because there's pornographic material that could be viewed by children in children's books. You know that the morale in this country and our values have basically fallen into the tank.
Well, that's what the polling has shown. But one of the interesting things in the polls is that Americans, whether they're Democrat, Republican, they share the same values. The problem is they believe that the other party doesn't share those same values. And that's where I think we have to come together. We just talked about the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. And one of the reasons why that's under attack is because of the extreme partisanship. I think Americans look at these things and they say, oh, well, that's the Democratic point of view. That's the Republican point of view. And the only way we can continue to make our country better is to say, hey, how can we reach across the aisle and work together? And I think if we think of people as friends, as family, as people to say, hey, what do we agree on? Not what do we disagree on, we can do a lot better.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. Sure, Michael, I do not believe that Democrats and Republicans share the same values, because I'm a parent and I teach my children values, and that does not include taking them to drag story hours, teaching them about sex, and all the number of other things that a lot of Democrats feel is an important value to instill in my child.
Yeah.
That is not, no. I'm sorry, but no. I'm going to let Sir Michael answer that, and then David, you can respond. Go ahead.
Julie, look, you're right. There's some clear delineation that needs to be made in terms of morality and ethics in this country. And what you're saying, Julie, is, to be quite frank, that we are a country of divided souls. And I think if you really want to determine the present and potentially even the future of a nation, look at the values that country holds dear. Look at the cultural norms that the country holds dear. And I think many of these positions, Julie, that Democrats have taken not only are isolating to many Americans, but they're also isolating to many Democratic voters of color who traditionally are conservative-leaning individuals, culturally speaking. And so I think the vast swath of Americans are looking at some of these positions and saying, wait a minute here, this stuff is far too far. Where do we put an end to this? Where do we say we want to be a society with some level of Christian beliefs and morality to determine what our future should be? And I don't think a lot of progressive Democrats in particular share those beliefs.
David, I'll give you the final word briefly.
Well, I think that's just it, is that we agree that we want to raise our children well, to be outstanding citizens, to do what they want to do. I think it's the means, the way that we do it might be different. But I think we have to look at each other as equals, as thinking, hey, we both care about this country. We might just have different ideas about how we do it. Well, I think that's the bottom line.
Preserving our nation's youth is a starter, and not teaching them about sex when they're in kindergarten would also be a good way to start raising your children. They are the future. Let's bring the values and morals back up, and let's start at a young age before we continue parenting. All right, that's all the time we have. Sir Michael Singleton, thank you very much. David Carlucci, appreciate you both coming on.
Thank you.
We have breaking